Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Vavadveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudevasutam devam kansachanuramardanam devaki paramanandam Krishnam vande jagadgurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 17th Adhyaya of Shraddha Vibhaga Yoga, and Sri Krishna he is teaching us about different types of austerities that we perform day in and day out, for that matter. The austerities of the body, the austerities of the speech that he clearly told us, non-injuring and worshipping the gods and the Dvija twice born and the teachers and the learned souls, the enlightened souls, and following the diktats, following the requirements of the purity, shaucham, arjavam, the straightforwardness, no deceit in thoughts, words, and deeds. That is what is required for performing the bodily austerities. Then the brahmacharya, the celibacy, and ahimsa, the non-injury. So this is the 4 ways that we perform our bodily austerities. And then he told us about the austerities of our speech. How should we perform austerity of the speech? By uttering the words which are anudvegakaram, which don't create any kind of excitement, which don't create any kind of udvega in the listener. And that vakyam has to be satyam, the truthfulness. We should never deviate from the truthfulness. Maybe not truth, tell the truth bluntly, which can hurt somebody, but without deviating from the truth. Maybe you choice of words to put that truth in an acceptable manner, which won't hurt the other person. That is satyam. Priyam, one which is pleasant to hear, but which is not a false flattery. It is pleasant to hear. Tell good to people who what deserves to be told to them. Tell good, certainly. The moment somebody has done some good, yes, praise that person for the good that has been done. That is sweet to listen to. That is so priya, pleasant, and hitam. Also, utter the words which are going to be beneficial to the listener. It is not that listener just listens to your word, throw it from here and take it out from here. Not like that. Which is beneficial, which does some good to the person. And the truthful and the speech that also sets one into the practice of svadhyaya. That kind of word, that kind of language. Chant the mantra, chant the hymns, chant the divine devotional songs. So that kind of chanting, that kind of singing, which brings in the practice, which sets in the practice of svadhyaya, which sets in the practice of studying the real self, the self atma-jnana, which helps one to have the ultimate realization. That kind of speech, Sri Krishna has told us, is the austerity of speech. Now let us see what Shri Krishna has to tell us about the austerity of the mind, the mental austerity. Manaḥ saumyatvaṃ maunamātmavinigrahaḥ bhāvasaṃśuddhirityetattapo mānasamucyate. Manaḥ prasādaḥ. Manaḥ, the serenity of mind. Prasādaḥ, the blissfulness of the mind. That serenity of the mind. Saumyatvaṃ, gentleness. Soft-heartedness. Saumya. And maunam, silence. Silence can be a great austerity. In fact, although it deviates from the austerity of speech, for that matter, but silence in itself is a great austerity that can be performed. Not uttering anything. But not uttering anything doesn't mean that I am not uttering a word as such. But I am expressing my anger, my jealousy, my harsh feelings through so many other actions without uttering a word. That is not the mauna. Mauna is even not expressing those harsh feelings. Not expressing joy, not expressing sorrow. That is the real mauna. Be silent. Silent is non-expression of your emotions, of your feelings, and just merging the mind into the self. That is the real silence, maunam. Atmavinigrahaḥ. This is what silence also leads to. Vinigraha is control. The atmavinigraha, the self-control. Don't allow the mind to scatter here and there. Atmavinigraha, control the senses. Control the sense organs. Objects are there to lure the senses. Lured by the objects, senses lured by the sense objects, they put the sense organs in action and all the damage starts. So that Atma Vinigraha, controlling even the senses and the sense organs. That is the real self-control. Bhāvasaṃśuddhirityetattapo. Bhavasaṃśuddhi is purity of nature. Not just physical purity. Taking bath or 3 times a day and putting this, putting that. That is not the purity. Purity of the body is to certain extent required for that particular thing. But what is really required, more than purity of body, that is required is bhavasaṃśuddhi, the purity of the inner nature. I may be perfectly clean outside, but am I clean inside? Or if there is any dirt, or if there is any dark spot inside, that is what the spiritual aspirant should be careful about. So that bhavasaṃśuddhirityetattapo. Then iti tapaha mānasamucyate. This kind of austerity is called as the mental austerity, the austerity of the manas, austerity of the mind. And this is most important. Physical austerities, yes. Speech austerities are also important, but the most important of all, having performed physical austerities and the austerities of speech, the austerities of the body and the austerities of the speech, if the austerities of mind are not performed, nothing is of any use. Because it is the mind. It is the mind that ultimately takes control of our true self. Mind is the factor which is determining which direction we are running into. If we don't have that Atma Vinigraha, if we don't have that Bhavasaṃśuddhi, we can absolutely go haywire. If we have no control on our self, if we have no control on our senses and the sense organs, we can be demons, we can be devils, we can be wretches. If we don't have a Bhavasaṃśuddhi, if our inner self is not purity in totality, if your inner self if our bhava, if our nature is not pure, is not purity galore, then nothing can help. No physical austerity, no speech austerity is going to be of any help. So Sri Krishna says, this is what is the mental austerity. The serenity of mind, the purity of mind, the cleanliness of the mind, manaḥ prasādaḥ. Then saumyatvaṃ, gentle. Now this saumyatvaṃ, the gentleness of the mind, also leads us in the physical austerity of ahimsa, not injury. If our mind is not saumya, if our mind is not gentle, if we are carrying harsh feelings in our mind, then it will be extremely difficult for us to follow that austerity of the physical ahimsa. Even to follow that austerity of speech in terms of anudvegakaram, of not creating any kind of excitement, not creating any kind of hurt feelings in the minds of listeners with that kind of harsh speech. For that, the mind has to be saumyatvaṃ. So these are all in a way interrelated. Whether it is the physical ahimsa, or whether it is the anudvegakaram of the vak, or it is the saumyatvaṃ of the mind. So that is how Sri Krishna has brought into these three facets of the tapas, these three different types of austerities, the kaya, vacha, mana, the physical, the speech, and the mental austerities. That is how Sri Krishna has brought them together. They are not in a way different altogether. Like our yogas, the jnana, bhakti, and karma, in turn, they are all coming together at the end. Similarly, these austerities also. Somewhere or the other, there is always an intermingling. So that manaḥ prasādaḥ, the serenity of mind. If your mind is pleasant, you will never use harsh words. If your mind is pleasant, we will never deviate from the truth. So this is the type of mental austerity that Sri Krishna has explained, which goes in line with the austerity of body and the austerity of the speech. Serenity of mind, gentleness, silence, self-control, and purity of disposition. This is called the mental austerity. Now, avoiding depression and confusion and being established in a blissful calmness is the serenity of mind. There is no depression, there is no confusion, there is no delusion. The mind is crystal clear of its goal. The mind is crystal clear of the ultimate path that is going to be taken. How we have to lead this life. There is no confusion at all. The mind is absolutely serene, blissful. That happens when there is no delusion, there is no confusion, and there is total calmness. Being kindly disposed towards all is gentleness. This is what that saumyatvaṃ comes to the mind. And through saumyatvaṃ also comes the ahimsa. Through saumyatvaṃ also comes the anudvegakaram vak. So this is how all the faculties, basically, they are all interrelated. But most important of all, the mind has to be in that proper setup. The mind has to be properly oriented to perform. Once this mind is in place, the body and speech also automatically come in place. Control of the mind is superior to control of tongue and the body. This is what is aimed by Sri Krishna in this shloka. Ultimate control, the ultimate thing to be monitored is the mind. Once the mind is in our control, once we know what is the mind, we can automatically take care of our body and our speech. And then it becomes possible for us to perform all the austerities of the body, austerities of the speech, when the mind is in its proper place. Permitting pure thoughts and noble emotions alone to crop up in the mind is self-control mentioned herein. So, it is good to practice silence at times. Get away from that austerity of speech for a moment. Just be silent. Be with one with the mind. See what the mind is. See what the mind is telling us. See and talk to the mind. Being silent means don't talk to the world. Maybe talk to the mind. Talk to the mind how it is doing. Encourage the mind that whatever speech austerity things Sri Krishna has told, put that in practice while talking to the mind. Anudveka karo. Don't allow your mind to get into that state of excitement. Don't allow that mind to get hurt by harsh words. Use the pleasant things to talk to mind. Talk to the mind that it creates benefits to the mind. It is a hitakara. So that moment of silence, utilize that moment of silence, not talking to the world, but talking to the mind. And that is going to get us a great benefit. What is in mind expresses itself as words and actions. He who has mastery over his mind never utters an unwanted word and never does an undesirable action. Once the mind is under control, everything is peaceful. Once the mind is calm, everything is calm, everything is serene. When a person's temperament is congenial and attitude felicitous, he is said to be imbued with the purity of disposition. When it happens in our lives that when we see somebody, looking at some holy person, we so much feel peace in our heart just by looking at that person. Don't even talk, you don't even interact with that person, just look at that person. We feel as if our heart is filled with joy, our heart is filled with bliss. That is the type of continence, that is the type of bhāvasaṃśuddhi that person carries who has got the purest of the pure mind. So Sri Krishna has told us about the greatness of the mind in this 16th shloka. And not only the greatness of the mind, how we can perform the austerities of the mind. And having performed the austerities of the mind, get the mind into that condition that automatically our sharira, our body, our the physical nature and the speech also comes under our control. So with the mind under control, our body is under control, our speech is under control, and automatically then we don't have to make any extra effort of performing those austerities. Once the mind under control, once we get those attributes of the serenity of mind, manaḥ prasādaḥ, saumyatvaṃ, the gentleness of the mind, gentleness of the heart, and maunam, when we get into that habit of being silent for a moment, being silent with ourselves, and ātmavinigrahaḥ, the self-control. Once this happens, we get into that position of bhāvasaṃśuddhi, the purification of our inner nature, of our inherent nature. And once that happens, automatically our body and speech, they also follow the diktats of the mind. So this has been such a wonderful teaching that Sri Krishna has given in this 16th shloka. How in totality, in whole, we can transform our lives to get into the practice of performing the bodily, the speech, and the mental austerities just by controlling the mind. That is Sri Krishna's teaching to us in this very important shloka of the 17th adhyaya, the Shraddha Vibhaga Yoga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swamiji.